How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sunday, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern, and Saturday mornings with Jim Valley, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 Eastern. And we got a lot to get into here today. It is Tuesday here on this program, and you don't know what that means today. Normally, you know what that means on Tuesday. I'm going to bury all these Raw segments and talk about all this stupid stuff on this show. But no! Not today. Show wasn't perfect, but this was my favorite Raw, and I can't remember the last time there was a Raw that I thought was as good as this Raw. So we're going to talk about that today on the show. That'll be fun. A fun Raw report. Also fun. I've seen 2 matches so far from that Impact Rebellion show. They were both awesome. So if you have not seen the show or all of the show, I strongly recommend Moose versus Josh Alexander and Ishii versus Jonah. 2 great matches we could talk about on the program today. And they're going to be doing a rematch of the Josh Alexander Moose match coming up on Access TV this coming Thursday if you want to see it again. We got updates on FTR and the story that WWE has interest in them. We got an update for the AEW show coming up on Wednesday. We have a new special commentator for the Dax Harwood Cash Wheeler match. No, it's not Bret Hart, but it is one of Bret Hart's biggest fans commentating on 2 of Bret Hart's biggest fans, having essentially a Bret versus Owen tribute match. CM Punk will be doing commentary for Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler. We can talk about the rest of the lineup as well. We have the Dynamite, the AEW Rampage numbers, the SmackDown numbers. Bad Bunny is going to be a pro wrestler in a movie, and so much more. Back in a moment to kick it off, Observer Live.
You're clear.
Hey there, everyone. It's Denise, and today I've gathered some of the best moments from the Samoa Joe Ring of Honor media scrum. Take a look.
Obviously, it was a major surprise to me, especially coming from my former position and how hard I was pushing to buy the library for the other company. So let me know why it was being such a difficult process. But when that did come up, at the same time, having Tony have it and knowing how much he loves wrestling and knowing how much he loved ROH and the product just from our meetings and time knowing each other, I knew it would be in good hands, and I knew it would be treated with respect, and it would be kind of made available to the fans in the best way possible. So I was very, very happy with it. At this point in my career and what I've done. The second release, my going back to WWE was majorly because of the people that I'd worked with and the relationships that I built in the company, and namely 2 people in Triple H and William Regal. As Triple H obviously dealing with his situation, which I knew about and was way more concerned about than my employment, and Regal, his departure, I knew the writing was on the wall for me, and which is fine, we were a big collective team and a big collective kind of a think tank within the company, and they went a different way. And as far as the release, it's an up and down process for a lot of people. For me, it just freed me up to really kind of pursue a lot of projects that I really wanted to work on, and kind of freed me up to start talking with Tony and talking about the future of what he wanted to do. And I was very surprised a lot of that matched up. A lot of guys, they get to a certain point in the industry and, they don't want to put themselves in the crucible. They don't want to put themselves in situations where they got young, hungry guys who want to come up and tear their throat out for their spot. I've never had an issue with that. And, that's a major reason why I'm here. Talking with Tony, understanding the lay of the land and the athletes that have been attracted to AEW and ROH, I knew that, it was a place that I wanted to be. A lot of familiar faces, a lot of new, kind of burgeoning stars that are coming into their own. And, these are the environments where I thrive. When I came into NXT, it was very much the same type of thing. When I came into WWE, everywhere I go, I'm searching out for those type of matchups and those type of individuals. And AEW is flush with them, and ROH is flush with them. And, now I have this grand opportunity to pursue those targets on both brands. So, but, yeah, it did play a major role because, obviously, you know, I have a lot of my legacy tied up with the promotion, and you know, a lot of work that many fans have enjoyed over the years has been you know, affiliated with the promotion. So, you know, to see it and to be a part of it and to help influence the future of it, you know, it was kind of a unmissable opportunity.
Alrighty, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that roundup of highlights. I will be back with another video, but in the meantime, make sure to enjoy the rest of Wrestling Observer Live.
Wrestling Observer Live, Mike Sempervive, also WrestlingObserver.com.
You look amused.
I was just thinking of some stuff. At 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern today, Lance is going to be on the show, and we'll talk more about this Impact Rebellion pay-per-view. But as I noted in the opening segment, there's 2 matches that I strongly recommend. They're the only 2 I've seen so far. Apparently, there's a lot of other great stuff on the show, but Moose and Josh Alexander is a great main event. And Ishii versus Jonah is just a great Ishii versus Jonah match. And I was watching that main event, and I'm sure I'm not the biggest Moose fan on the planet, but sometimes I feel like I am, because I never really hear anybody talk about Moose. I mean, they talk about him, you know, they talk about him, but here's the thing, okay? I watched that Raw show last night, and they actually didn't quite do my idea with the arm wrestling contest, but one guy actually beat the other guy clean. I thought for sure they were going to do the deal where, you know, Omos is about to lose, and then MVP hits him with the cane or whatever, and then they tip the... Bobby Lashley beat him. He beat him. He beat him in an arm wrestling match clean. And then they have the post-match, you know, attack and everything like that, and I'm just watching Omos, and it's like, my God. They so badly want this giant, and he's just a tall guy, and, you know, he's a guy playing pro. I don't believe anything about... I've talked about it before. I don't want to get on the guy. I'm sure he's a nice guy and all. And then, like, I'm watching SmackDown, and they got old Shankly. He's a tall guy, another giant, and he's going to be facing Ricochet for the championship on SmackDown on Friday. He's in a title match. And on the show, he's also in a lumberjack match, and he has no idea how to be a lumberjack. And even the announcers are like, Shankly clearly has never been told the rules of a lumberjack match before. I'm like, he doesn't know the rules of a lumberjack match. And I'm sure he's a nice guy as well, but you ever seen Shankly wrestle? So anyway, you know, they got Satnam Singh that has debuted in AEW, which, by the way, of all of the newly debuted giants, I mean, from what I've seen, he's the best. But still, I mean, just a big guy. Just a big guy. He's learned a couple of moves. We don't know anything about how he can work in the ring or anything like that. Everybody wants a giant. And, bro, here's Moose right here. This dude is a legit 6'4", 6'5". And so, like, in wrestling, he's 6'8", 6'9". And, dude, this guy is so good. Like, he has no holes in his game. The number one hole you'll see in a Giants game is always the same. They have no idea how to sell. Right? Look at Omos try and sell. It's comedy. Shankly. We have no idea if Satnam Singh can sell. I mean, you could go through the list of giants in this business, and virtually none of them have a clue how to sell. Moose can sell. He knows how to work as a giant. He knows what to do and when. He has an intimidating... He works like he's a giant, a big dude. He comes across as a big dude. When he needs to sell, he knows how to sell. When he needs to put the guy over, he knows how to put the guy over. Guy can cut promos. And then he's in there, on top of everything else, Josh Alexander sitting on the top rope. This dude does a vertical leap drop kick, knocks this guy off the top rope to the floor. And this guy is just, he's unbelievable. And meanwhile, it's, we got to find some tall guy. I'm not saying that, like, you know, he should be immediately, because I don't think he could be rated from Impact Wrestling, but it's like, how come when everyone's looking for a giant, it's like nobody ever talks about how great Moose is? He's an awesome giant. And him and Alexander, Josh Alexander's great. Man, they had a great main event. Place is going crazy. All these awesome near falls. And finally, Josh Alexander plants this guy with his J Driller. pins him in the middle, wins the title. His family's there. They get in the ring. They're all so happy. That was awesome. And then Ishii and Jonah, who are like two, they're giants, but they're short giants. Ishii's shorter than I am. And I don't know how tall Jonah is, but he ain't 6'5". But it was like King Kong versus Godzilla in there. They're just pounding on each other. And the story couldn't be a simpler story. Ishii tries to brainbuster, he can't get it. Then at the end, Ishii goes for his giant big splash off the top. He misses. Ishii hits a sliding lariat, grabs this guy, lifts him up, and he hits Jonah with the brainbuster. And these people leaped out of their seats. So they're screaming and going crazy, and he pinned him. These guys have never touched before this match. They're both working New Japan Strong regularly, but they've never had a singles match before. This match was awesome. So now I want to see like both these guys in the G1, opposite blocks, go up against each other again in Japan. Man, I only saw 2 matches from this Impact show, but this show was great. So I'll have to watch more later.
You going to be able to get that done by the time you do the show with Lance?
Nah, it ain't going to happen.
Ah.
But I could talk about Moose and Josh Alexander and Jonah versus Ishii for an hour, if I had to.
Try to find a bad opponent for Josh Alexander.
There isn't one.
There isn't. There just isn't one at all. And it's, Impact being there is especially because at the time, nobody knew what was happening with Ring of Honor. And before AEW went in there, it didn't seem like there was going to be much of a future there. And I know, look, I would have been happy if Josh Alexander would have signed with AEW. The thought of him, he could always pick up the team with Ego again, if you wanted to down the line, and him as a worker in there with Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, Lee Moriarty, all these guys, many of whom he's already wrestled on the indie scene anyway, would have been fantastic. But he gets to be a much bigger fish in, a smaller pond, unfortunately, for Impact. That's just the way it goes. But he gets a chance to really showcase himself. Plus, he gets to stay on the indie scene and have these great matches with the Davey Richards, with I think he had one with Leo Rush. He certainly had a bunch in AEW with, he's had him with Myron Reed. He's had him with a bunch of guys there. So he's just so good and probably doesn't get his due, and we'll see what happens with Impact in this title reign that was obviously cut short by Moose, and they had the whole feud. It's gone on for, 6 months, 9 months? It just seems like forever now. But it'll be interesting to see how his reign goes because he's really, really good.
There's a comment in here that someone goes, well, Moose isn't as big as those other giants you listed. You're right. But here's the point. Who cares? Yeah. You don't need your giant to be 7'4". You don't need your giant to be 7. All you need is your giant to be a giant as it's compared to the other guys.
How tall was Andre?
Who watches I don't know how many Godzilla movies there are. I should ask Vinny. But I bet you anything, if you watch a bunch of Godzilla movies, Godzilla's a different height in each movie. And I'm sure there's like one movie where he's 9 stories tall, but then there's another movie where he's only 6 stories tall. Well, it doesn't matter if he's 6 or 9. The guy who's 6 stories tall, that Godzilla still destroys the city. You just need a guy who is portrayed as the big scary giant. Dave was talking about this the other day. Let's talk about the last giant that was like super over, okay? Nash wasn't 7 feet tall. But, I guess you could say Kevin Nash,
Big Show?
Kevin Nash's prime was in the mid-90s. We had the Big Show, who, his actual prime as a giant, as I try not to do a giant sneeze right here, his actual prime as a giant was actually when he was in WCW. Because once they brought him to WWE, he was just a big dude. They didn't push him like Andre the Giant. They beat him 3 weeks in, clean in the middle of a Stone Cold Stunner. And then, they sent him away to OVW because they didn't like how big he was. And, he was an effective big man. But he was never Andre the Giant or anything like that. His most effective run as a giant was actually in WCW when he was the Giant, actually. And they pushed him as an actual giant. So, if you have a Moose, you get rid of Omos and Shankly and all these other 7 feet. You don't need to be 7 feet. Nobody cares if you're 7'4". They care if you're an effective giant. And an ineffective 7'4" guy is worse than having an effective guy that you push is 6'8". I gotta talk about Raw after this so I can get back in a good mood again. Observer Live. Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. I'm not having the giant argument right here. Now people are telling me that Godzilla's taller than King Kong, so King Kong's definitely not a giant.
Well, he had lifts
He is
in
a
during the
giant.
movie.
The only guy in Impact Wrestling that is taller than Moose is W. Morrissey. I'm 99.9% sure that Gallows is either the same height or very slightly shorter than Moose. They're basically the exact same height. So, giants.
Moose is a big guy. He's just
Big
legitimately drafted
dude.
in the NFL, you know.
Big giant.
38 years old, though, so if you're a WWE fan, hopefully
Guys,
you'll
do
go there.
not go on the
Yeah.
internet and go by what it says about Gallows' height on Wikipedia. Unless you want to say that I'm 5'9". I'll do that. If you want to say that I'm 5'9", then you can say that Gallows is 6'7", 6'8".
You want to text the good brother and see what he comes back with?
Well, of course he's going to say that. He's not going to kill his own gimmick.
6'12", baby.
How about we ask the actual agent who is at Impact and is right there in the locker room with all those guys at 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern, and we'll find out who is taller, Gallows or Moose, or if they're basically exactly the same height.
Brian, you say 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern. How do I watch or hear such a show?
I think I pulled this out of my buttocks. Well, YouTube, of course. Video.f4wonline.com. Now, let me talk about Raw, because this show was the best Raw in forever. Now, granted, the opening segment was very by the numbers, where Orton's out there celebrating and the babyface are out there. Then a whole bunch of heels come out and they announce a multi-person tag at the end of the show. It was nothing special. It's nothing you need to go out of your way to see. But it was worth it to see how happy Randy Orton was. When you think about this guy's career, and boy, did he have some ups and downs, and a lot of downs. And he came out there, and I'm pretty sure with all sincerity told us this was the greatest run of his entire career. And he was so happy, and he loved Riddle, and they hugged, and the people were just so full of joy. If they break these guys up anytime soon, I'm going to be so mad. But they haven't yet, everybody, so I'm not taking that away from the show. It was a great moment. We had Bianca Belair and Sonya Deville, and they went 45 seconds to a countout. Then, of course, Sonya Deville is management, so she restarted the match with no countouts. Then they went 52 seconds to a DQ when she hit Bianca with the chair. Then she's management, so she announced it is no DQ. And so since it's no DQ, I mean, the heels just started running in, and they were triple teaming Bianca Belair. Now, why Bianca has no friends in her hometown, that's another matter entirely. But she overcame the odds in her hometown. She beat up 3 wrestlers. She sent the 2 outsiders packing. She hit her finishing move on Sonya Deville. She pinned her, retained the title, and everybody in her hometown was so happy. It worked, and I liked it. We had an Edge and Damian Priest segment, and as I've said before, I have no idea what Edge is talking about, and I don't like these promos, and he's 1,000 times better as a babyface. But I don't know what it was, but he had a delivery on this one where I actually briefly became compelled. I thought he did a good job. I still don't know what he's talking about, but this was, of all of the Edge promos he has done backstage with Damian Priest, this was the best. But I still don't know what's going on. Veer Mahan beat Sam of the Smothers Brothers. He was killed in 36 seconds. Just a squash to get the guy over. They did the arm wrestling match, and as noted, they went back and forth. They did a fake real arm wrestling match, and in the end, Bobby Lashley won. He put the guy's hand down, and he won. And then, of course, he's celebrating. He gets jumped by Omos. They beat him up. They drop the table on him. They're having a match at the pay-per-view. It ain't going to be good. But this was not your totally typical arm wrestling trope. It was, at least we got a winner before they turned the table over on the guy. We had a mixed tag match with Truth as referee. It's his way to try to get all these couples, they're unhappily married. They got married a week ago. So they do the match here, and Akira Tozawa pins Reggie. And, bro, he did the biggest senton. It was like if Montez Ford decided he was going to do a senton, Tozawa jumped so high and pinned Reggie in a minute 31. And then Truth tells Dana, the match is over. Get out of this ring before someone takes your title. He then rolls her up, and because he's the referee, he tries to count his own pin like it's the YWF. But she kicks out, goes running, and this must continue. We had a Becky Lynch promo. Like, her and Seth are 2 smart people, but, I don't know what they're thinking with these gimmicks. She's got this outfit on. She's all depressed. Her life means nothing without this belt. Her gimmick is she's a new mother, but her life means nothing without this belt. Dude, I'm a dad. I don't buy this for a second. So she's all sad, and then whose music should hit? Oh, her whole storyline. Get this. I've hit rock bottom. Now I can fight my way back to the top. I'm like, what a storyline is? It'll really hook those viewers. is the hated heel fighting their way back from below. So anyway, Asuka's music hits. She makes her big return. She dances down to the ring. Place is going nuts. She cuts a promo. I will stop you. Nobody is ready for Asuka. Fans love it. She flicks Becky in the nose. Becky takes a swing. Asuka avoids it. She takes a swing. Becky bails. Thought it was a good segment, mostly because Asuka returned. But I thought it was all right. Then we had Damian Priest beating Finn Balor. Match was good, but then the finish, of course, it is Raw. So they're having this good match, and then Edge is all the way up on the ramp. He's 100 yards away, sitting in this goofy throne. He stands up. Finn Balor is distracted by height, and he is hit with a choke slam and this new flatliner gimmick, and he is pinned. I don't know if future is bright for old Finn Balor here. Unless you go on the YouTube chat, then they're sure he's staying. He would never leave. Miz TV with Theory. It's Miz and Theory. The first 5 minutes of this was the biggest load of trash on this show by a significant margin. God help me. Austin Theory and Miz going over Miz's resume. Bro, if I never hear Miz's resume again, it'll be too soon. I am so sick of hearing this guy. I got it, okay? It's big time. Go away. Turn the channel heat at this point. So finally, who should return but Ali? Ali is back. They make fun of him for, wanting to take his ball and go home, and he wants a shot at Theory, but, Miz says blah, blah, blah. So Theory challenges Miz. Miz says, dude, I can't just make matches. So Theory goes, I just texted Vince. He said the match is on. Miz is furious. But in fact, they have the match. It's Mustafa Ali versus Miz. And I'm a big critic of Miz, especially in the ring. And granted, this was, he was in there with Mustafa Ali. But this was the best Miz match. I can't even remember the last singles match Miz had that was this good. He was working. They went up and down. They had psychology. This was a legitimate, very good Miz match. And it wasn't all the other guy. It may have been largely the other guy. But Miz, this is one of those matches where Miz totally held up his end of the show. And he did a good job. And he got pinned clean in the middle off a figure 4 reversal. And Ali won. Ali returned and won. And then he got laid out by Ciampa, whose real first name is, in fact, Tommaso. So he is no longer Tommaso Ciampa. He is now just Ciampa. Rhea Ripley promo. She actually asked a good question. Are you ready to tell us why you did this? And Rhea had a good answer. Dude, I showed up here as a single star. I won the women's title. Then I end up in the tag division. And dude, I'm just getting beaten right and left, and my partners don't hold up their end of the bargain, so I couldn't take it anymore. Liv shows up, attacks her. They had a brawl. There's a segment I cannot do justice to, but if you have this on your DVR, watch the segment with Chad Gable, Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, and the Usos as they all argue back and forth setting up the main event tonight. They were all great in this segment, and I greatly enjoyed it. And then we had the main event, which was Cody Rhodes, Ezekiel, Randy Orton, and Riddle against Rollins, Owens, and the Usos. This was the closer you're going to get in WWE to how AEW has their party match every night. So the party match, everybody got in there. They got to do their spots. They got to shine. All the big spots at the end. Baby faces, they take out all of those heels one by one. Ends up with an Uso in the ring. He gets the RKO off the middle rope, pinned in the middle of the ring. Randy Orton celebrates on his 20th anniversary show. I like this Raw a lot. Am I the only one? I realize that the show normally sucks. I realize that when you compare this to like an actual great wrestling show, it wasn't like that good. But man, I thought this was a good show. I enjoyed the 3 hours, and I liked it. And I won't hear otherwise.
Are there a bunch of people flooding your timeline and your mentions and your emails?
I don't care. I don't read that crap.
Show?
It was good.
What did you think about Becky's makeup and
dude? I don't know what's going on with
the haircut. I thought that looked good. Now the whole outfit she's been with her man too much. They I don't know what they're spending
here's the
on
thing,
wardrobe,
bro.
but
I don't
she
know if
looked
you know this or
fantastic.
not. I'm gonna give you a secret.
Okay.
Becky Lynch is objectively a beautiful woman. And so you actually can do anything with her hair, and she's going to look good.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Well, the
why.
glasses
That's
are a
why
nice
when you look at a
accessory.
catalog, they got all these clothes, or you go and you flip through that thing at the barber. Oh, what haircut's going to look good? Well, that haircut may not look good on you. They found a good-looking person to put that haircut on.
When are you
Same
gonna
with
find
clothes. I'll talk more about beauty after the break. Observer Live. Of course I'm not actually going to talk about beauty on this show. I cannot believe how attacked people are at the idea that Raw was a good show or that I liked it.
They're attacked?
What do you
Really?
think I do in my life? I'm just miserable all day? I'm a happy guy. Literally, my only pain is doing my job, which happens to be most of my life. And
Yeah,
not
pretty
all
good
the
life.
time. I had a great time today. I watched those Impact matches, coming off a good Raw last night, and, I'm happy.
I don't think you are.
What
I think
a
you're
horrible
putting out
thing.
I think you're putting out a front.
People are so appalled. I didn't talk about nothing but lousy segments. They were good segments, one after the other.
Some good stuff on there. And I guess, maybe you're readying yourself for all the influx of people who want to discuss Becky Lynch talking about the AEW women's division.
Do I have to talk about legitimate, like, no problem segments on this show for people to actually believe me?
Sure.
Well, I mean, the opening segment, there was nothing wrong with it. It was very by the numbers, but I liked it. Liked Randy. I liked Bianca winning and overcoming all the odds in her hometown. That was good. I even liked Edge.
Did you like Sonya slapping the hell out of Carmella and Zelina?
I'll get into that in a second. Don't let me forget. I mean, Tamina and Akira Tozawa versus Dana and Reggie, that was harmless, and it had a great finish. That senton was awesome. Asuka's return was great, and I swear to God, that Miz match, I was so impressed with Miz in that match. And obviously Ali was great, but, I've seen a million matches. Everyone Miz is in the ring with is better than him. So I've seen a million matches where, like, it was good, but it was all the other person. This was not all the other person. Miz was really good in this match.
What'd you think about Ali?
What, you think I'm going to lie about the Miz, of all people?
What'd you think about Ali getting the win and then getting laid out? Do you think they're going to do something like go with
I'll tell you why it was weird.
I'll
tell you why it was weird. Because the way they did the segment, I thought that Ali was going to be next in line for Theory. And then he had to go through Miz first. So he goes through the Miz, and then, it would be fine if Theory laid him out or whatever, but Ciampa laid him out. So what? What does Theory have to do with any of this?
Well, do you think it's going to end up in a three-way? And I haven't seen any of the things that they've done. I know they film things for WWE.com and all that afterwards, so maybe somebody talked to Ciampa and he made things more clear, but it's like, I could see them actually going with a three-way there, and having singles matches because...
Well, here's the problem, Mike. You're right. You're right, but here's the problem. The pay-per-view, the go-home show is next week. So
but
it would be one thing if we had 4 weeks for the pay-per-view and you could do a bunch of stuff to build a three-way. Why not do Theory against Ali, and then, whoever wins or Ciampa can run in during the pay-per-view match, and then you do the thing to set up a three-way later. Why would you start with the three-way?
Well, that's why I'm wondering because Ciampa can say, I'm here, and it's great that you're back, but I want to beat up that kid who I should have beaten up more in NXT, and they do it that way. And I know what you're saying, and you're exactly right, but I don't think that affects there's no time constraints on them. They can have a match with 2 people for that title, but this story really just kicking off now. I mean, Backlash is just a stop in that story if you wanted to go in that direction, which, again, I don't know what they're going to do here, but I know there's a lot of people that are happy Ali's back. I'm happy Ali's back. I love watching him, but, I'm sitting here with tempered expectations right now.
So we had an interview with FTR with Renee about the rumors that WWE wants them back. And Dax says, I think we know about as much as everyone else does. We left that place because they didn't put a focus on tag team wrestling. We knew there was a ceiling to where we could go in the company. We wanted to do more. We wanted to be known as the greatest tag team of all time, and we had to leave there to do that. I told Tony, because obviously he heard about it, I told him there's no way we would ever talk contracts with anybody while we were working for him. We have way too much respect for him, and our word means something. He continued to speculate as to why WWE would want to bring them back. He says, I started thinking, this is Dax, do they want us, or do they want AEW not to have us? I think I can answer that question for old Dax. It's cool for Cody to do what he's done.
He knows.
There's so many unknowns there. Would they ever focus on tag team wrestling the way we've been able to the last 2 years? I think we all know the answer to that one.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how much has changed there as far as what we wanted tag team wrestling to be. Now we're getting to show everybody what tag team wrestling can be and what our vision of it is. He commented on the match at Supercard of Honor against the Briscoes. I told Cash after the match was over, that was our Bret Austin. I don't know if we'll ever have a better match than that one. That's okay with me. I can hang my hat on that. I can hang my hat on that whole week, me and them and the Bucks match. But specifically that match, I can hang my proverbial. So basically, for those of you, which match was better? I think you and I agreed the Briscoes match. They are undoubtedly saying the match with the Briscoes was a better match than the match with the Bucks that they had on Dynamite. Yeah. And he talks about how they want to be 2-time AEW Tag Team Champions. Until then or after then, we want the IWGP Tag Team titles. that would solidify them, he believes, as the greatest tag team of all time. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, look, they want to be a tag team, and there wouldn't be an Owen Hart Cup if they were in WWE and they were facing off against each other. It would mean they were splitting up, and that's something that they're not going to do. And look, professional wrestling has not been fair to tag teams for 50 years. It was the 50s, 70 years. The last time tag teams would really main event territories. Yeah, the Carolinas did it 60s into the 70s, but it's just not something that modern promoters really want to put on that pedestal. Not even AEW. Once in a while they'll do that, but obviously when you have CM Punk and Hangman Page and Kenny Omega and all those guys, that takes precedent. Those singles matches take precedent, but they're in the best place now that they could possibly be. If AEW allows them to continue to go out and take indie bookings, which they have, and continue to go face teams like the Briscoes and face other teams who are out there, that's always going to be the best place for them. And if it's not there, it's going to be another independent, because it certainly won't be WWE. And I think I talked about this yesterday or a couple days ago. I mean, the thought of them going over to New Japan, the thought of them against, I don't know, Dangerous Techers or really anybody, because they're so great. I mean, I hope that happens. I really do.
We have Dynamite coming up on Wednesday. Undisputed Elite versus Varsity Blondes, Dante Martin, Lee Johnson, and Brock Anderson. Sammy versus Scorpio Sky ladder match, Owen Hart Foundation, Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler, CM Punk on commentary. Lance Archer versus Wardlow, and Hikaru Shida, Serena Deeb in a street fight. Rampage on Friday, 518,000 viewers. Up 7.5% in viewers, but just a 0.19 in 18 to 49, which given the competition was only down 13%. But they had a big gain in people over 50. Over 50 folks chose wrestling over the NBA. SmackDown also down. 1.952 million viewers. You know how many times there's been like a Rampage or Dynamite up against some NBA competition or whatever, and the show suffers as a result, and my buddies at WWE gloat and laugh. Or those guys when SmackDown does 1.9 million views? It's a horrible viewership. But of course, it's because of the NBA. That's all right when it happens to WWE. But man, when it happens to... Anyway, lowest audience for a Fox airing since July 9 of last year. 0.47. Lowest number for a Fox airing going back to July 2021. Ship must be sinking. Or it was the NBA, which probably has affected all wrestling shows promoted by all folks.
It's almost like must be something to this whole thing with live sports, eh?
Music superstar Bad Bunny, as opposed to the annoying rabbit digging up your carrots outside. Music superstar Bad Bunny is putting his pro wrestling training to use for an upcoming movie role. He will star in the Spider-Man spin-off movie El Muerto, which will be released January 12, 2024. The El Muerto character is a, quote, super-powered wrestler. It is amazing. It is incredible. I love wrestling, said Bunny about playing El Muerto. The Dead. I grew up watching wrestling, and I am a wrestler. I'm a former champion, so this is why I love this character. I think it is a perfect role. I hope on his resume he put WWE 24/7 champion. Like I put Death of WCW on my acting resume in 2005. El Muerto will be the first Latino Marvel character to get their own live-action film. Congratulations to Bad Bunny.
Man,
on this
yeah, it's just where he's come from, and as big as he's gotten, and as much as he's crossed over. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. It really is. Congratulations to him.
All right, let's look at the feedback here. If you'd like to text us, 425-780-7566 is the phone number. That is 425-780-7566. Brian, please make a bird whistle or a blink in Morse code if Vince or someone at WWE has you hostage right now.
He actually believes all of this, folks. What makes you not believe that he believes all of this? My God. Didn't you watch the show? There's been plenty worse Raw shows.
I am accused of being biased every day of my life. And then here I am enjoying Raw, and people presume I've been kidnapped.
Are you an alien? Do I have to put on my They Live glasses to make sure that's you?
Do it. Wouldn't be the weirdest thing you've worn on this show. Undertaker started to have some good matches later on in his career. Kane was a solid giant. I'm not sure if those guys were 7 foot or not. Yeah, they weren't.
They weren't.
If anything, they were both safe workers. I've heard other wrestlers put them over. Yeah, they were. It's one of the most important things besides selling about being a giant, being safe.
What do you think about Sid?
Dude, I loved Sid. Guilty pleasure.
He was a great worker, 6'6", I think legit. I don't know. I guess he wasn't really. Barry Windham. Blackjack Mulligan his father was like legit 6'7" or whatever it was, and he was way up there too. And, if there's anybody, and granted, you got to have the athleticism, you got to have the genes and all that sort of stuff, but Barry Windham is the ultimate example of a big man. I mean, who could work tiny? We talk a lot about small guys who make themselves big. Randy Savage is a great example of that. There's been a lot of guys like that. Ishii is like that. Dalton Castle in some ways is like that because of the flash, because of what they can do physically. It makes them seem that much bigger. But it's always amazing that those big guys who could actually work, and there are very few of them over, legitimately 6'5", 6'6". It's like, how many of those guys really could work? Not many, but Barry Windham's the one to watch.
Happy Alvarez and Madcap Mike.
No.
That's about what it is. That's about what it is here today.
No.
Except,
you ever rock the
Mike ain't got that physique.
I don't have that as athleticism, but you talk about Moose. He's been in this game now a long time, and Riddick Moss, Mojo Rawley. That's why Jim Ross and a lot of people for years. That's why they want to go get football players. They're big, they're athletic, but it's just. Some have had better times than others trying to transition over.
I have more in common with this old Corbin than he even realizes when he banned me. What did they call it when you blocked me on
Twitter? Blocked
you? Yeah. What a wimp. Back in a moment, Observer Live. Show Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive,
Yeah? What?
where were you?
I was busy.
Just flew in at the last second there, and I had to bring it to everybody's attention, even though they would not have known otherwise.
I was doing the 40 because you said I wasn't as physically fit as Riddick Moss, so I just ran the 40 in
I'm sure that's why he
2.9
looks like
seconds.
that. He's running the 40. It's all about comparisons, this person says. In
Are you
third
shaming
grade,
me?
In third grade, that one kid who's over 5 feet tall and weighs over 100 pounds is going to
What
look
grade?
like a giant on the playground. The dude just has to be bigger than everyone else. Thank you. Thank you. This person knows what they're talking about.
Only if they can work. What's the point of being a big kid on the playground if you can't work it? You can't fight. Same thing within the ring. That's the problem with all these giants. And I understand you want to appease to a market. I get that. But for God's sakes, all these guys over the years, how many of them lasted? How many of them were even worth it for a little bit? Very few.
For example, this person says, Walter is a legit 6'4", and he is at his best when he is portrayed as a world-destroying, indestructible giant. It can be done. Of course it can.
Of course.
Of course it can be done.
Anything can be done if you want it to be in wrestling.
And by the way, yes, this is a correction. I can't believe I didn't remember this. Carmella and Zelina did break up a second time, right before Carmella went on her honeymoon, and then they were just randomly back together after the honeymoon. So they must have talked.
Oh, maybe.
2 Pacific, 5 Eastern, Lance Storm, everybody. We'll talk Impact. We'll talk Raw. I think you watched some of Raw and a bunch of other stuff as well. So 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern, video.f4wonline.com. I believe We're Live, Pal, is live next. So check that out. And that's it, everybody. We'll talk to you again after a while.